The Detroit Red Wings currently find themselves in a position that they have not been in a very long time, and that position is entering the week of the trade deadline firmly in control of a playoff spot. And I've been getting a lot of questions on the channel as of late along the lines of, what do I think the Red Wings are going to do at the trade deadline? Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Who are some guys they could go after? So today I put together a list of 5 players that I believe are somewhat realistic options as potential trade targets for the Red Wings. Some on this list are more realistic than others. Figured this would be a fun video to make as we continue with the trade themed content as we inch closer and closer to the deadline on March 8th. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, so let me know down below in the comments who are some players that you feel like would make sense for the Detroit Red Wings to target. If you guys enjoy this video by the end, please remember to hit the like button. It does help out the videos a ton. Let's see if we can hit 700 likes on this video. And if this is your first time coming across the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and start off. First, before we look at my list of players that I think would make some sense for the Red Wings to target, I want to talk about what I'm expecting Detroit to do at the trade deadline. And truth be told, I really don't know what to expect in terms of if they're going to be buyers or sellers. I honestly think it could be a little bit of both. Steve Yzerman is one of those GMs that is kind of a wild card. We never really know what to expect from him. I can't see the Red Wings going out and trading away, first round draft picks and top prospects for rentals, but if a trade comes across the table that can help the Red Wings win this season and also benefit them moving forward into the future, I think that's something that they have to consider. It's been heavily reported on over these last couple of weeks that the Red Wings are open to moving a defenseman, which definitely makes sense. The blue line is crowded. The only guy on the blue line who's a pending UFA is Shane Gostisbehere. At some point, you have to make room for Simon Edvinsson to come up. He has been playing fantastic in the AHL for Grand Rapids. He looks more than ready. On top of that, it would be really beneficial to move out a contract or two on the back end just to give the Red Wings some more cap flexibility heading into the offseason, an offseason in which they have to sign both Raymond and Seider to new contracts. So that's a little preview of kind of what I'm expecting from the Red Wings at the trade deadline. Now let's get into my list of potential trade targets, and keep in mind this is just for fun. These aren't predictions by any means. But with that said, let's start off with the first player on my list, and I think this is definitely the most unrealistic one. Noah Hanifin, one of, if not the biggest name available on the trade market. 27-year-old left shot defenseman Hanifin is a pending UFA, and I know I literally just said earlier in this video that I don't think the Red Wings are in a position to go out and trade premium assets for rentals, so this obviously is not a trade you make if you're the Red Wings. If Noah Hanifin isn't open to signing long-term in Detroit or the trade doesn't come with an extension. Frank Seravalli put out a piece the other day, and he basically said that Noah Hanifin is kind of holding the Calgary Flames hostage throughout this whole process. I want to read this quick little tidbit from the piece Frank Seravalli put out. He said, officially, Hanifin can only block a trade to 8 teams via his limited no trade clause, but in all reality, all Hanifin's camp has to do is quietly signal to an interested party that he will not be willing to sign long term, and it effectively kills the potential of a deal. So it definitely sounds like wherever Noah Hanifin ends up, it's going to be on a team that he's willing to sign long term with. Would he be willing to sign long term with Detroit? Who knows? That's why I said this is one of the more unrealistic options. But if he would be willing to sign long-term with Detroit, I think the fit makes a lot of sense. I know I said Detroit's blue line is crowded, but it's not like it's crowded with top-end talent. Really, the only Red Wings legit top-pairing defenseman is Mo Seider. I know Jake Wellman has been a solid complimentary piece for Mo Seider, but his game really has came back down to earth this season. Still a solid defenseman, but not really a top-pairing guy. Noah Hanifin would immediately become the Red Wings' best option on the left side. He is a legit top pairing guy capable of playing big minutes, playing in all situations, and has a very well-rounded game. Another reason why I think this fit makes sense is the fact that Noah Hanifin is only 27, and he just turned 27 in January. Usually when it comes to rentals and guys that are pending UFAs, they're, 28, 29, sometimes in their 30s. But when it comes to Noah Hanifin, he's right around the same age as the likes of Dylan Larkin and Alex DeBrincat. He fits in with, the timeline of the Red Wings core. And one thing that the Red Wings have over the likes of Florida, Boston, and Tampa Bay, teams rumored to be frontrunners for Noah Hanifin, is the Red Wings could likely offer Calgary a much more enticing package than those teams that I just mentioned in terms of the picks and prospects that the Red Wings have. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Pavel Buchnevich of the St. Louis Blues. This is another one that might not be the most realistic. Obviously, Buchnevich is, one of the bigger names that are floating around in trade rumors right now. These first two, in terms of Hanifin and Buchnevich, are kind of dream deadline scenarios for the Red Wings, and the last couple are more realistic. But in terms of Buchnevich, I don't even think there's any guarantee that we see him traded before the deadline. The St. Louis Blues haven't came out and said that they are actively shopping him. I believe most of the reports have just said that they are listening to offers and they aren't shutting the door on a potential trade. Buchnevich is not a pending UFA. He has one more year following this season at a very team-friendly cap of $5.8 million. So the Blues have all the leverage in this situation. They can be very patient. There is no rush to trade him this season. They can always revisit it in the offseason or leading up towards next year's trade deadline. In order for the Blues to trade Buchnevich this season, I think they would have to get a pretty sizable return. And if the Red Wings would be willing to offer up whatever the asking price is, I think Buchnevich would be a really good fit. In my opinion, Pavel Buchnevich is one of the more underrated forwards in the Western Conference. He has been a beast for the St. Louis Blues ever since being traded to the Blues from the Rangers back in 2021. In each of his first 2 seasons with the Blues, he scored above 8 points per game, put up 25 plus goals in each of those seasons as well, and he's going to score 25 plus again this season as he's already at 24 in just 58 games. Buchnevich really is everything you want in a top line winger. He has an underrated two-way game. He's not just one-dimensional in the sense that he's a goal scorer or a playmaker. He is a dual threat offensively. I think adding a player like Buchnevich to the Red Wings top 6 could really take this team to the next level. Now, the Red Wings have been a really strong team offensively this season, and they're doing their damage by committee. All 4 lines have guys that can score, but when it comes to their top 6 specifically, I feel like they're, one top 6 forward away from having a really good top 6. Michael Rasmussen has been playing on the second line recently, and I think he's done a fine job. David Perron played in that role a good bit this season as well, but I don't think either of those guys, at this stage of their respective careers are, legit top 6 forwards. Buchnevich would certainly be a sizable upgrade, and I think would immediately come in and be one of the 3 best forwards on the Red Wings. Continuing on now, the next player on my list is Casey Mittelstadt of the Buffalo Sabres. A 25-year-old centerman, carries a cap hit of $2.5 million this season and is a restricted free agent this summer. Mittelstadt has really broken out over these last couple of seasons for the Buffalo Sabres. This year, he's one of the few players on the team who hasn't seen their offensive production take a massive step back. He has been given a bigger role for the Buffalo Sabres this season compared to last year, and he's continued to produce. He leads the team with 47 points in 61 games, and he's another one of those players similar to what I said about Buchnevich, where Buffalo probably isn't rushing to trade Casey Mittelstadt. They may end up not even trading him, but it is worth noting that early in February, it was reported that the Buffalo Sabres weren't shopping him, but they were listening to offers. Elliot Friedman also stated on an episode of the 32 Thoughts podcast that Mittelstadt was expecting a lucrative offer from the Buffalo Sabres, and given all of the long-term big money contracts that other members of the Sabres young core have received, the Sabres may not be wanting to give out another massive deal like what Casey Mittelstadt could be looking for. So if Casey Mittelstadt does ultimately end up being traded, whether it is this season before the deadline or in the offseason, I think the Red Wings are a team that could make some sense as a potential fit. Casey Mittelstadt is a center, which is, I would say, still a position of need for the Red Wings. You have guys like JT Compher and Andrew Kopp who are veterans, and prospects in the pipeline like Marco Kasper and Nate Danielson. Nate Danielson, more so than Marco Kasper, is looking like he may have the upside to be, a legit number 2 center. That being said, we don't know when those guys are going to be ready, and there is no guarantee that either of them live up to their potential and fill that second line center role behind Dylan Larkin. Casey Mittelstadt is a guy that could do that right now, fits right in with the core and the timeline of the likes of Sider, Raymond, Larkin, and DeBrincat. The one downside of a potential Casey Mittelstadt trade to the Red Wings is it would put the Red Wings in a pretty tough spot this offseason. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, you do have to sign both Raymond and Sider to extensions. Both of those guys are RFAs and are likely both going to command big money deals. If you add Casey Mittelstadt, that's just another RFA who's likely going to be looking for a big money deal in the offseason. So those were 3 big name swing for the fences moves that I think could make some sense for the Red Wings. These next 2 players on my list are more so change of scenery deals, low risk, high reward moves. And the first one is Arthur Kaliyev of the Los Angeles Kings. He's a 22-year-old winger, was a second-round draft pick by the Kings back in 2019, and ever since the Los Angeles Kings fired head coach Todd McClellan, Arthur Kaliyev has consistently found himself as a healthy scratch. He's somebody who's played too many games to be waiver eligible, so there's not really much the Los Angeles Kings can do here if they don't want to lose him for nothing on waivers. He's just going to sit in the press box if he's not in the lineup. So it definitely makes sense as to why Kaliyev's name has been subject to trade rumors over these last couple of weeks. It looks like this is a guy that could use a change of scenery, go to a team where there may be more opportunity for him. Now, that being said, in Detroit, they have a pretty crowded forward group with a lot of veterans, and it's a team that's remained relatively healthy this season, so there may not be a whole lot of opportunity this year for Kaliyev, but the Red Wings have quite a bit of forwards coming off of the books that are set to be UFAs in the summer. A guy like Daniel Sprong, who very well may have priced himself out of Detroit with how productive he's been playing a limited bottom six role. I think Kaliyev honestly would be the perfect kind of player to replace a Daniel Sprong in the bottom six next season. Kaliyev is a guy with a heavy shot. He was a prolific goal scorer in junior, and he has shown goal scoring touch at the NHL level as well. He scored 14 goals in 80 games as a rookie back in the 2021-22 season, and then scored 13 in just 56 games last season before struggling this year. The Red Wings have a young forward who has been subject to trade rumors as well, who may be looking for a change of scenery. That player is Jonathan Berggren. Part of me wonders what maybe a Berggren for Kaliyev swap could look like, or a trade involving those two. And now finally, the last player on my list, we have Adam Boqvist of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's a 23-year-old right shot defenseman, was an 8th overall pick by the Chicago Blackhawks in 2018. Adam Boqvist has only appeared in 29 games this season with the Blue Jackets. He has 9 points in those 29 games. He's dealt with injury, he's been a healthy scratch, and overall Boqvist really just hasn't been able to find his footing and find any consistency as a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's a guy who, when he's in the lineup, is usually pretty productive offensively. Boqvist is a dynamic offensive defenseman, but his defensive deficiencies is really what has kept him from taking his game to the next level and becoming a legit top 4 NHL defenseman. Adam Boqvist has a cap hit of $2.6 million and is signed at that number through next season and will be a restricted free agent upon expiry. This is a guy whose value is probably at an all-time low right now, which is why I have him on this list. Again, like I mentioned before talking about both Kaliyev and Boqvist, these two guys I think would be low risk, high reward moves. If you're the Red Wings and you make a trade for Boqvist and he doesn't take that next step with the Red Wings and he kind of just is what he is at this point in his career, I don't think it's a massive loss, because I don't think you would have to give up a lot to pry him out of Columbus. In my opinion, this is a guy that would definitely be worth taking a chance on, as I think he still has a ton of upside as an offensive defenseman who plays maybe sheltered minutes at 5-on-5, but is a quarterback of one of the power play units. As a player comparison, maybe a younger version of Shane Gostisbehere, who is a pending UFA, may have priced himself out of Detroit. Is Boqvist someone that could come in and kind of fill that role? So that is going to wrap up today's video. Those are 5 potential trade targets for the Detroit Red Wings as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I always want to know what you guys are thinking, so let me know down below in the comments who are some other players that I didn't talk about in this video that you think would make some sense for the Red Wings to target before the deadline. If you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to leave it a like. It helps out the videos a ton, and it is definitely the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all again soon.